Victoria Coates, National Security Advisor, joins me now. Could we get, well, I keep talking about this grand bargain between Xi Jinping and America. That would be deals on Taiwan, deals on trade, wrap it all up. Is that a possibility?
Well, I suppose it is. I mean, President Trump has the national security of the American people first and foremost in his mind. I think that's why we're going to see this series of meetings, Stuart. And it's always good to have communication. Think about Reagan and Gorbachev, for example. It's good to have these meetings, make sure nobody's red lines are going to be crossed. But at the same time, I mean, China has continued to be just very adversarial towards the United States. We have the sentencing of Jimmy Lai to another 20 years in prison. That's a death sentence for Jimmy Lai. That's who these people are. So I'm glad they're talking. I hope we can get to some resolution, particularly on the trade issues, but I'm not hopeful that this is going to turn into some great rapprochement.
Okay. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he's meeting with Trump tomorrow at the White House. They're probably going to talk about Iran. In your opinion, are we close to some kind of attack on Iran?
Well, certainly we're moving a lot of things into the region, and this is really an unprecedented meeting. Speaking of meetings, this is the Prime Minister's 7th visit to the United States during President Trump's second term. We are staying so lashed up with our Israeli allies, and we saw the fruits of that in the 12-day war last year, where the Iranians were completely defenseless against both the Americans and the Israelis, and they still are, and they know it. And so, you know, with the Abraham Lincoln in the region, with the George H.W. Bush getting close, with all of the additional Patriots and THAADs that we've put in, you know, we are really prepared for anything. And then it kind of gets up to the Iranians. The president's talking to them as well. He has a deal for them, which is no nukes, no support for terrorists, and reduce your missiles. If they take it, okay. If they don't, then he's prepared.
But you've got to make sure they actually follow the terms of the deal. Can you trust them?
Well, that's the thing, trust but verify, to quote President Reagan. And so you would have to have a really strong inspections regime. They would have to give up a lot of things. You think back to that nuclear archive that they kept after the JCPOA, after the nuclear deal that proved that deal was fraudulently negotiated. So you'd have to have a lot of verification in order to trust any deal with the Iranian regime.
What exactly is Israel's role? Not so much military, more intelligence, perhaps?
Well, certainly they play a huge role in intelligence, and in the intelligence sharing between Israel and the United States is one of the aspects of that relationship that does keep the American people safe. That's such an important point, Stuart, that this isn't just about Israel's security. This is about our security. That's why the president's paying so much attention to it. When they say death to Israel, they also say death to America in Tehran. So, yes, intelligence sharing is important, but bear in mind, they took care of 11 days of the 12-day war. We came in with Operation Midnight Hammer at the end, so they can play a very important military role as well.
How long do you think President Trump will let this drag on for?
Well, I think it really depends on whether or not there is both additional action on the Iranian nuclear sites. We are seeing some movement around the entrance to those sites. We would have to get resolution for the over 800 pounds of highly enriched uranium they're still holding. And then we have to keep an eye on what they're doing to their own people. You know, as additional reports about the reported massacre in mid-January come out, you know, that is really a red line that the president has set. And either that situation starts to improve in a material way, or I think you'll see him take some action.
Victoria Coates, thank you very much for joining us. I know we'll see you again real soon. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Stuart.